Fellowship Program Director and the Director of Head Neck Imaging at Emory. And I want to start by thanking all of you for sharing your Saturday afternoon with us to hear a little bit more about our program. We think we have a great story to tell, and we're thankful for this opportunity. And we also want to give you the opportunity to ask us any questions along the way. So please feel free to use the chat box to ask any questions. For the first half hour or so, several members of our leadership, including our Chief Fellow, or one of our Chief Fellows, will share some of their insights. And then we will spend the rest of the time with an informal Q&A, including some of the questions that many of you submitted ahead of time. For the last few minutes, the faculty will leave the Zoom so that you can ask our fellows any additional questions that you may have. One of our current fellows recently shared his approach to choosing a fellowship boiled down to finding a program with excellent clinical training, with a good balance between service and education, the right culture and people, and finally geography. And I thought this was a great approach. So I'm going to take a few minutes to touch on each of these at Emory. First and foremost, our fellows rotate at 4 primary hospitals in a very diverse and comprehensive high volume training across all of the neuroradiology subspecialties. Emory is one of the few fellowship programs with this broad experience, including a tertiary care hospital, including a level 1 trauma center, and a dedicated pediatric hospital where fellows are learning from dedicated pediatric neuroradiologists. Our Emory University Hospital is located on our main Clifton campus and has a brand new hospital tower. The Emory University Midtown Hospital is home to our embedded ENT imaging clinic with a rich multidisciplinary experience for our fellows. And this is the only rotation that our fellows do at this hospital. Grady Hospital has a nationally acclaimed emergency care center, has a stroke center, and a top infectious disease program. And finally, our Eggleston Hospital, one of the children's hospitals, is located on that main Emory campus right across from our Emory University Hospital. So not only is our training diverse and comprehensive, Emory has also led the way with the embedded clinic model, which has several big advantages that I want to highlight for our fellows. Our fellows learn subspecialty neuroradiology from the experts, which doesn't happen in every fellowship. And so what does that mean? It means that they read complex head and neck cases with the head and neck radiologist and not with a radiologist whose primary interest is in functional imaging. And similarly, fellows learn functional MRI and advanced brain imaging from faculty that have both a research and clinical interest in this arena. So basically, our fellows are learning subspecialty neuroradiology from people with a passion regarding that subspecialty. Fellows also gain access to multidisciplinary learning and therefore learn practical clinical context, the why for each exam and the next steps in management. Our fellows can reach that next level of understanding and become that go-to radiologist because they're getting to venture outside of our reading rooms and into this clinic space. So here's a picture of one of our head and neck radiologists, Dr. Wu, and she is participating in a daily multidisciplinary tumor board. You can see some of our oncologists, both medical and radiation oncologists, our surgeon. We also have specialties from speech, from dental, and physician extenders involved in these multidisciplinary clinics. Fellows also gain experience with direct patient reporting in some of these clinics, and they can hone those important communication skills that you can use during procedures as well. Emory has also led the way with structured reporting, including both NIRADs and BT rads for surveillance after treatment for head and neck cancer and brain tumors, respectively. And these are just a few of the examples of how innovative and specialized training at Emory is positively impacting our fellows' experience. As a mom of 3 and a mom of twins that I had during fellowship, I understand firsthand the struggles and the very delicate balance of work and life outside of work. So culture and wellness are central to the life of this fellowship. And in fact, many of the changes that we've made over the past few years are the direct result of our fellows' feedback. A couple including intentional planning to end the workday earlier by ending outpatient reads by 4 p.m. and to balance our call weekends, which average about 6 per year, with 2 days of compensation time, both the Friday before call and the Monday after call off. And as you'll hear later from our associate program director, our fellows do have scattered academic days, which can also be fairly easily traded to support flexibility and outside of work responsibilities. Before COVID and hopefully after, our department has supported wellness lunches, which I think have been great to give our faculty and our fellows a chance to connect outside of the reading room. And these are just a few of the examples, but the bottom line is that culture and wellness are a priority in our fellowship. I'm sharing a couple of pictures. This top picture is from a graduation dinner that you can see was clearly family friendly. And the bottom trip was a trip to the aquarium with both faculty and fellows and a few of their kiddos. So these pictures are clearly pre-COVID, but our fellows and our faculty enjoy dinner gatherings and cocktail hours and graduation and holiday parties together each year. And this year we've had to be a little innovative with Zoom gatherings and even a recent socially distanced gathering in the park. And we also gather at national meetings where Emory, it's not unusual for Emory to have the largest gathering of faculty and fellows and alumni. So I can say that one of my biggest joys at work is the people that I work with, which is really my second family. And at this point, I want to turn things over to our division director. Actually, just a quick word about after the Neuroradiology Fellowship, our fellows go all over this country. And in fact, you know, I hear from directors of different programs and presidents of groups that they are always happy to interview Emory fellow grads because they know they're going to hit the ground running and that they've had top training. So at this point, I want to turn things over to our division director, who's not only a brilliant neuroradiologist and scientist, but I think he sets the tone for this division with his kindness, his laid-back approach, and his contagious laugh. So I'm going to turn it over now to Dr. Allen.
Oh, thank you, Ashley. Again, I just wanted to welcome everyone to the open house, and I hope that we're able to give you an overview of Emory and our fellowship program, as well as answer any questions that you might have. So I know Ron who's the associate program director, has already put some comments up in chat, but please remember to go ahead and put any questions you have up in chat, and we'll do our best to address those in the second half. So as Ashley already mentioned, we have a very diverse faculty, and we're really fortunate in that we have representation at a lot of different levels in the leadership categories you can see on the left-hand side of your screen. So all the way from Jonathan Lewin, who's our executive vice president, to who's a neuroradiologist, of course, Carolyn Meltzer, who is going to speak, I think, right after me, who is our chair and also a neuroradiologist, as well as one of our executive associate deans. We have representation in our departmental executive committee with Amit Sindani, who's the vice chair of clinical affairs, and Mark Mullins, who are the vice chair of education. So a lot of opportunities to be involved in clinical and education initiatives throughout the department and in our division, of course. You've already met Ashley Aiken, who's our fantastic fellowship director, and Ron Hu, who's going to come up a little bit later and speak, our assistant fellowship director. So you can see, in addition to people on the left, we have a large number of diverse adult neuroradiologists. You can see across the board here. And then we're very fortunate, as Ashley pointed out, to have people who you'll be trained by the people who love what they do and are subspecially trained in what they do. So we have a dedicated pediatric neuroradiology group led by Nadia Kadam. And there's 5 dedicated pediatric neuroradiologists who you have the opportunity to work with when you rotate through the children's hospitals. And then we have a really great interventional neuroradiology team that's led by Michael Cawley, who's a neurosurgeon, but it's actually a nice mix of neurosurgeons and neuroradiologists on the team. And you have the fortunate to be able to go and spend some time in their clinic with them and hear about the clinical aspects of interventional neuroradiology, as well as participate in in cases and seeing cases being done. Actually, can you advance for me? Perfect. So just I think a big theme of Emory is our diversity in training locations, our diversity in faculty, and then our diversity in our faculty's training. So we're really fortunate to have people come from programs all across the country, as you can see here, which provides a nice mix of new ideas that are constantly flowing into our division. And also you get a diverse opinion and diverse training that you look at cases in different ways, because each of our faculty have been trained from different people and bring their area of expertise into the training environment. So again, we're across both coasts as well as in some of the center of the country. And it also provides, when people are finishing their training and they're looking for positions, whether academia or otherwise, that you have a wide group of experience to draw upon, because we all know people from the areas that we've trained in. Actually, great. And then really to follow up a little bit on that is that because we have such a large faculty and such a diverse faculty in neuroradiology, there's a lot of opportunities for mentorship as a trainee, to really get some mentorship from people who are leaders at both the institution level as well as in the national stage, because there's a lot of commitment from my division to really fostering neuroradiology throughout the country and throughout the world for that matter. So these are just a couple of highlights of a few people. We really have too many to list on one slide, but again, we have Jonathan Loon was a past president of ARS and AUR, and Carolyn Meltzer was a past president of ASNR. Mark Mullins is a current ASNR secretary, so a lot of activity at ASNR, and he was also a past president of ACER, AMCER, and APDR. You can see Amit Sindani is actually the president of SCNRS, which is our Southeastern Neuroradiologic Society, so some regional representation as well. And then, of course, you can see just a smattering of different chair positions across our national societies, from ASNR and ASHNR and NIH in neuroimaging and cancer imaging. So can you advance more? So I just really wanted to take that second to introduce our faculty, because I want to make sure we have time to answer questions you might have. So I'm going to turn it over now to Dr. Carolyn Meltzer, who's a fantastic chair of our department and has really been a mentor to me, as well as, of course, an awesome neuroradiologist. So she's going to tell you a bit about our department in general.
Well, welcome everybody. I brought a little bit of a cheering squad here to welcome you remotely. And I also bring a welcome message from my boss, Dr. John Lewin, who was going to try to be on the call today, but he texted me just a little while ago, said he can't make it, but to send his regards. As you can imagine, I'm especially proud of this division of neuroradiology. I have had the honor of leading this department for nearly 15 years. And it's just the people make it. We have great toys to play with. We have advanced services. We've got everything here, but it's really the people and the culture that make us want to come to work every day. So we are a large place. There's an array of opportunities to get engaged clinically and research and teaching and quality work. About 1,150 people in the department altogether, and that's almost 200 faculty. We have very large training programs, and education is very near and dear to the heart of this department. We have 11 clinical divisions. So we also have a renowned emergency and trauma imaging division, which is really becoming a national star. Our IR division has 27 IR faculty now. It's huge. And we have a community radiology specialist division. So if you wanted to get an idea of sort of multi-specialty practice and what that can look like. And our research is focused on a few areas. We have a really exciting group working with biomedical informatics on AI. We want to embrace and lead in AI. Also putting in a 7 Tesla magnet and new research building and PET imaging biomarker program, and some very strong health services research program. So I could go on, but I know we have a lot to get to. And again, welcome. And I will turn things over to Dr. Mark Mullins, Vice Chair of Education.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Really glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. I love what I do and I love where I am. And I feel very lucky about that. People ask me what the secret sauce is for our place. And I think it's the culture. Very collegial, very collaborative, very friendly, very helpful and outgoing. But it doesn't come at the cost of excellence. So we have some of the best and brightest people and do some of the best work anywhere. We're just nice to each other as we do it. And it's great for collaboration. It's great for working together on different projects. A common question that comes up is about how the education mission interfaces with the fellowship. I will say that our fellows are commonly around residents and medical students routinely, and have just the usual opportunity to teach in that regard. But we've had several fellows avail themselves of opportunities to teach in the classrooms, do educational development projects, all sorts of stuff. So as an administrator, I like to work on two levels. What does everybody need, and give people an opportunity to scale up. So we definitely include the fellows in that concept as well. So I'll be brief. Thank you, guys. Education is very highly valued here, and not only at Emory and in our department, but in our division as well. So I think I'm going to hand it off now to Ron Hugh, my neighbor. Ron and I did not overlap in Boston, but I was overjoyed to welcome him here. Ron's been a fantastic friend, colleague, and neighbor. So as you see, Ron is now our Associate Program Director. Ron, I'll leave it with you.
Thanks, Mark. My name is Ron. I came to Emory after fellowship in 2016, and it's really been an incredible experience. I took over from Brent as the Associate Program Director this year. It's really been rewarding to watch our fellows grow in the short 12 months into confident and superb neuroradiologists. And it's kind of bittersweet to see them move on in 12 months and go on to practices in academic centers across the country and lifelong colleagues and friends. But we have 12 months of fun and education-packed curriculum for our fellows, and it really exposes the fellows to all the essentials and advanced aspects of neuroradiology. So getting into the nitty-gritty, we have many sites, but they're actually located very close to each other, usually within 15 minutes drive, and there's plenty of parking. For inpatient adult neuroradiology, the fellows rotate through the EUH and are responsible mainly for MRI and some advanced CT. They will also be doing procedures including lumbar punctures and some cross-sectional procedures there. Then we have a dedicated brain health center, which is located about 10 to 12 minutes from EUH at Executive Park, where fellows rotate and they'll participate in the outpatient MRI. This is where they learn how to post-process hands-on, conduct and post-process functional MRI, DTI, and even newer techniques that we're translating into clinical practice. And then for one of the favorite is Grady, which is a very unique and fun experience. We'll be exposed to a lot of trauma and stroke. It's just really a great learning experience. You see a lot of pathology that the first month I was there, I was blown away. One of the unique aspects of our fellowship is the pediatric neuroradiology rotation, which is, we have a large dedicated pediatric hospital, which actually now has 2 campuses and will be moving to a brand new facility in a few years. And then there, the fellows will, learn pediatric neuroradiology and work with Dr. Kadam and colleagues. One of the most beloved rotations is head and neck, because we just have such great people there, led by Ashley, Kristen, and Cynthia. There, they'll be exposed to a ton of head and neck cancer, temporal bone, biopsies, and I'm kind of envious of the exposure to head and neck they have in fellowship. It's really superb and top notch. And of course, angio. Our fellows will do a few weeks of angio at EUH and work with our neuroradiology and neurosurgeons on that service. And one of the unique kind of aspects of our fellowship is the QA rotation, where the fellow are really focused on protocoling, learning the kind of nitty gritty of the protocols, how to optimize scanning. So that's something that, really a great time for fellows to kind of hone their protocoling skills and also work on QI projects. And then one of the things is that I'll get to for call, but all the fellows get an academic day after call, which will be covered by float fellow. So for several weeks, a fellow will be a float fellow covering the post-call fellow so that the post-call fellow can have an academic day. And we're constantly trying to improve our curriculum. And starting in the next year, we'll have 9 fellows, and we'll actually have, give us additional room to design probably, more exposure to procedures and other advanced aspects of neuroradiology. So everyone take a deep breath. Now I'll talk about call. So just to get it out there, there's no overnight in-house call. So that's great. So we have 2 types of call. Basically the evening weekday call, which is divided among 9 fellows, so about every 2 weeks. So there will prelim studies in-house at EUH from 5 o'clock to approximately 10 p.m. or whenever the EUH MRI finishes their work for the day. And then they'll go home and take pager call from overnight. And then they get the next day off, hopefully working on academic projects. And then on the weekends, we have, so also divided among 9 fellows. So everyone will take about 5 to 6 weekend calls and 1 holiday weekend, which is a long weekend call. And this is, I'm not gonna lie, it's a busy call, but it's a really great experience to learn to be efficient and to be responsible. It starts on Friday evening, and then it's the same. The fellow gets to go home around 10 to 11 and then be on pager call, then come back during the day on Saturday and Sunday and work with the faculty throughout Saturday and Sunday. And then the official pager call ends on Monday. So also post call on Monday, the fellow will be off. Actually, we instituted we're always trying to respond to feedback. So on Friday, we actually, starting I think last year, had tried to put the fellow on angio rotation, and then they can come in a little later on Friday and have a little bit of a break before a long call weekend, like in advance. And time off, everyone's favorite subject. So we have a lot of vacation, major holidays, the major holidays listed here. And I actually forgot to put on here, which I think Ashley put on her slides, that during the major holiday of Thanksgiving and Christmas weeks, we actually go on half staff. So half of the fellows will be off during the whole week of Thanksgiving, during the whole week of New Year's, while the other half works, and then vice versa for Christmas week. So, and we do that for faculty as well. So that's additional days in addition to your 15 days of allotted vacation. And our vacation days is kind of unique. You can request them ahead of time. It doesn't have to come in blocks or weeks. So we really try to accommodate as much as possible. And as we get 9 fellows moving forward, we're going to have even more flexibility scheduling these in the future. And I already talked about the academic days after both the evening call and the weekend call. And all of our fellows have actually had the opportunity to take advantage of going to at least 1 conference. And so we pay for 1 conference a year, and almost all of our fellows have presented in the past several years at a major conference. Talking about research, fellows are required to do a scholarly project. It can be a small retrospective review to prospective studies, but as I mentioned before, all of our fellows have been successful in presenting at national meetings. Some of the resources I think Carolyn had alluded to before as well. We have a lot of advanced imaging, informatics, AI research going on both at Emory and Georgia Tech. We have a brand new research building coming up in 2022, which will house a 7T scanner, also a state-of-the-art PET MR. So there'll be plenty of research going on around those areas. We also have one of the 8 national primate centers right next to our campus, and we have actively working with colleagues there on advanced imaging sequence development, and 2 of our fellows are actually working with me on one of the projects right now. So now I'll kind of hand off to Dr. Anna Trofanoma and Dan Hampton, who are our chief fellows for this year.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Anna Trofimova. I'm a neuroradiology fellow here. Here, I just would like to share with you a couple of thoughts that I was considering when I was deciding on where to do my fellowship training. So I've also done all my training at Emory, my internship and my radiology residency. However, when I was thinking about neuroradiology fellowship as my next step, of course, I was considering multiple things. And number one of them, it was clinical training. For me, this is the year to hone my clinical skills. So this was my number one priority. And I'm completely convinced that Emory Neuroradiology is just an exceptional in terms of clinical training, just because of the size of the program and the healthcare system overall, the volume of the imaging studies, and the variety of the pathology that we see here every day. Another, I think, which is a very important factor is getting that subspecialist training in head and neck imaging and pediatric neuroradiology, which I think also makes significant difference in terms of how I learn those subspecialties in neuroradiology. Of course, as a trainee at our last step, for me, it was important in terms of future job prospects. And I think that Emory Neuroradiology has such a big network of alumni who work throughout the entire country that you probably can hear Emory name at any places, at any national conferences, and definitely gives you a little bit more opportunity in terms of future job positions. Again, as it was discussed earlier, faculty who work in this division, they are engaged at multiple levels, at a regional, national level, and that definitely helps with networking. So many exciting projects that I'm working on, they have been started because of this networking that was possible because of this faculty support. Emory provides just amazing research, teaching, quality, and service opportunities. So regardless of what's your goal for this year and how deeply you're interested in research or any other opportunities, or if you just want to do your scholarly project for your fellowship year, you definitely will not have any problems with accomplishing of any of those goals. One of the big factors that was very important for me, and it's still very important for me, is diversity. And I think that one of the big differences that Emory, I think, has is that diversity is in action here. It's not just on the paper, it's not just on the poster on the wall. You can actually see it in action every day. And you see it in diversity of people who work here, in diversity of the ID. So it also, I think, is very important. And that comes down to people and culture. Starting from my residency training, I think that this is another very important thing that attracted me so much and played an important role when I was deciding on where to go for the fellowship, is that the culture is, as Dr. Mullins mentioned earlier, is truly very open, friendly, and truly supportive. And as a trainee here, as a fellow, you definitely feel this desire in the faculty who work with you to see you grow during this year, to do your best, to learn as much as possible and succeed in your future career. Work-life balance is definitely important for us all. I think probably many of you already have family and kids, so having this being considered is also an important part of the training. And I think that the efforts that Neuroradiology Fellowship does, and Dr. Aiken in particular, for example, in making sure that 5 p.m. is a cutoff time and everybody gets to go home at that time and nobody stays to work until later hours, or arranging this rotation changes around the weekend call to make it much more much better experience that it was in the past, or how appreciative the program is to some concerns or some suggestions expressed by the trainees. I think it's very important. And then I also just included a couple of things about just living in Atlanta. Some of them, they're definitely not as important as clinical training, but at the same time, there are also some just small things that just make this year better. So cost of living is definitely one of the big advantages of living here. What I like about Atlanta is its variety, because it does provide this enormous opportunities of a big city in terms of the different places to go, things to do. Restaurants, maybe not so much right now, but it definitely exists and hopefully will exist in the future. At the same time, for those who are looking for quieter neighborhoods for family with kids, there are just enormous opportunities to find wonderful neighborhoods for that as well, in close proximity to the Emory sites where we work. Well, I love the weather here. I think that fall is just beautiful right now. It's just fantastic weather, and pretty much it stays like that throughout the year. Maybe gets a little bit hotter in summer, but it's still okay. And finally, I think that even like having that big airport right here is also makes many things much more convenient. So I've never had to think far in advance how to get to any place. It just provides additional convenience to this here. So that's just a brief overview, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Anna. I also want to say that we're lucky enough to have convinced Anna to stay at Emory as faculty too. So, and want to say Anna and I are actually on call together this weekend. So we've been able to get, I think, everything read out almost to this point, and we're down here. So it's not too bad. And second, what you said about weather, if I were more savvy and able to walk around with the Zoom, I'd love to show you outdoors right now. It's just an absolutely, beautiful day. At least it was on the way in. So for the next half hour or so, I think we've got about a half hour left. I have a few questions that people submitted online that we'll review, and then we'll open it up, and Ron can help with any additional questions that are coming up in the chat box. So we had a couple of questions on application criteria. This is the neuroradiology application, and Emory will be through ARIS this year. And so I've included a couple of different websites that you can go to. You can go to the ARIS website. You can actually go just to our Emory Neuroradiology website to get some more information on this. You need the completion of a residency, board exam, the ARIS application, including 3 letters of recommendation, 1 from your program director, your CV, and your personal statement. And you can find all of this again on our website. The ASNR website for fellows, that portal is also another area that you can visit for more information. While our fellowship gives strong priority to fellows that have completed an ACGME or AOA residency in the United States, we do consider applicants for residencies outside the United States, but there is a higher bar for that application. USMLE is strongly encouraged, but we do also consider the COMLEX scores. Another question that came up during the application process or the enrollment for this particular open house was about procedure training. And so at this point, I'm going to we do a lot of these on head and neck as well, and I'm happy to answer any questions about head and neck guided biopsies. But Dr. Brent Weinberg is going to talk a little bit about procedural training with spine procedures and our angio rotations.
So we do a number of procedures here, but we're a little bit lucky because we also have strong divisions in IR and body that take some of the less interesting procedures, so we can really focus on mostly the neuroradiology driven procedures. We do a lot of LPs and myelos, which kind of make up the bread and butter. So every fellow who graduates should be like really confident doing an LP and a myelogram by themselves. You get a lot of exposure to biopsies, both on the head and neck service, where you do ultrasound guided biopsies of the neck, but then also possibly some CT guided biopsies of the cervical spine and the skull base. You can see there's an image here where someone looks like they're getting up into the pterygoid there. So that's great. And we do biopsies in the cervical spine. We're a little bit fortunate that we don't have to do all of the biopsies in the thoracic and lumbar spine because there are a lot of what I consider a little bit not that exciting, like disc aspirations for osteomyelitis. But you'll get a chance to do a number of challenging procedures. I know some of the fellows have done many of the procedures for the first time when they're fellows because they're sort of higher level procedures. And I think that's great. And we can have any more specific questions about that once we finish.
And our fellows, by the end of training on head and neck, they are, even within 2 to 3 months, are very comfortable with ultrasound for ultrasound guided biopsies. Generally, we have 1 or 2 procedures a day on head and neck. And we do use, it's amazing what you can get to with ultrasound, first of all. I think fellows learn that. And then we do use CT for any lesions in and around the skull base. This was actually a very small mass in the parapharyngeal space here. Usually a minor salivary gland tumor, but you can see that we're just coming in for just a deeper biopsy and therefore having to use CT. So the next person I want to turn this over to is Dr. Kadam. We had a few questions online about the fellow's experience in pediatric neuroradiology. And so she was going to speak for a few minutes about the fellow experience at Children's Hospital.
Okay, thank you so much. For the fellows, they usually come by a week or 2 at a time, and we have them rotate at the Eggleston Hospital, which is across the street from the main Emory Hospital. So the parking is the same, or you can use parking in our hospital as well. And when you're there, you'll just be reading pediatric neuroimaging studies. So we only read CT and MRI studies. We have about 2,000 exams per month that we read. We do functional imaging as well, but at a lower frequency than we do on the adult side. But we have all the subspecialties in the 2 hospitals, actually 3 hospitals that we have, Eggleston, Scottish Rite, and U Spalding right now with the joint PAC system. And you'll see everything from neurology, ENT, neurosurgery, all the subspecialties we have in the hospital. We have 2 level 2 trauma centers at each of the main hospitals at Eggleston and Scottish Rite. And this is a picture of a future hospital, which we'll hope to get built in 2025. Sorry, I have that 2020, but it should be 2025. And we just received a big donation from Arthur Blank, who owns some sports teams here in Atlanta. And this is our core faculty here. My colleague Neil Lal is 50% general pediatrics and 50% neuro. And recently Adam Goldman-Yassin joined us. He did adult fellowship at NYU and pediatric neuro fellowship at CHOP. And he's great. And Kartik Reddy joined us from Mississippi. He trained at Children's Colorado, and he's great too. So I think you will love working with us. Anna will join us at some point in the future as well as 0.5 FTE. So I'm excited about that. We have all the facilities. We have 9 MRI scanners and 6 CT scanners in the system, and all our facilities are ACR accredited. We're also an ACR Center of Excellence, so we're proud of that. We do a lot of quality work at Shoah. I don't know if there's anything else. Oh, there it is. We are actually one of the centers in the United States that has the most pediatric imaging studies. So we have over 300,000 radiology studies per year. So a lot of people don't know that, but it's fairly busy. And it's also very interesting because we see a very high variety of very interesting pathology. So I hope you're interested in that rotation. Thank you, Ashley, for giving me the opportunity and for somebody to asking about that rotation.
Thank you, Nadia. So at this point, I just wanted to open it up to see if there were any other questions. Ron, are there any other questions that have come up on the chat box?
Yeah, actually, there are 2 great questions. One is, it's clear to me that the program has so many strengths. What do you think the areas of improvements are?
Every year there's room for improvement in any hospital, in any fellowship. So I think, I can speak to the improvements that we've made in terms of the last few years. I think you've already heard some of them. In fact, it was one of our recent fellow graduates who stayed with us in neuroradiology and in pediatric neuroradiology who suggested, let's change around the angio rotation and the way that the fellows were experiencing angio. And the way that the angio rotations have changed has been a national trend. This is not something that is just at Emory. Many of you probably know we don't have the same ACGME requirements anymore. And so the fellows were rotating on angio, but maybe they weren't getting as much teaching as they wanted. So that was an area for us for improvement. And so we worked closely with the neurointerventional radiologists. And what we did is, instead of a 5-day work week, we changed it to a 4-day work week, and we changed the rotation so that only 3 of those days you were seeing diagnostic angios. And the 4th day, the fellows go into the INR clinic, the interventional neuroradiology clinic, so they could really learn from the interventional neuroradiologists how they were seeing patients, how they were deciding which patients would go for an interventional procedure, which patients would go for a diagnostic procedure, and how our anatomic imaging was impacting those choices. So this is another example of how we really use feedback to make improvements on a rotation that our fellows, it wasn't their favorite rotation. And I would say now that they're having a better experience. We were also able to work in a pre-call day there, so they don't come in on Friday. They just come in on Friday at 4 p.m. when they start call. So that is a recent area that we were able to improve on. But I would say every year there are 2 or 3 changes that we make in response to fellow feedback. Anyone else have any comments on? I think you also heard from Dr. Weinberg, from Brent on procedures. We don't do pain procedures. That does come up, but again, we do so many procedures here and so many spine procedures that my counter argument to that is, once you learn how to use CT guidance effectively, which our fellows absolutely do, I think they probably get more hands-on procedural experience than many fellowships across the country, then you can do pain procedures pretty easily. That's a matter of just knowing which steroid and anesthetic is of the day that you're going to be using.
There's kind of a related question to that is there elective time offered during the year for extra time on head and neck, spine intervention, etc.?
Right now, so for your class coming up, there's not block elective time. So what we decided to do instead of block elective time, because in the past we did have that, and so it was more of a block for academic and elective time, but the feedback that we got, and here's another example of how we change things based on feedback, is, hey, someone's block time would come either all the way at the beginning of the year or all the way at the end of the year, or would come right in the middle of RSNA, and there wasn't really a fair distribution of those days, and people couldn't use the days to go for ongoing academic projects as well. And so having an academic day, so basically we took that block time and just kind of interspersed it throughout the year. And so now fellows get, a day off every 2 weeks or so on average as an academic day. So there's not currently dedicated block elective time. When we move to 9 fellows, which next year will be the first year, there will be more opportunities that we can use more elective block time. In the past, we called it a consult rotation. And so fellows were able to, what I did is put them in touch with surgeons in different subspecialties, so that fellows were able to go into the OR, put them in touch with technologists if they had an interest in quality improvement and increasing the communication with technologists. I had a personal interest in this because when I became faculty way back in, gosh, I finished in 2007. I came here in 2009 from San Francisco to Emory, and all of a sudden I was asked to, really lead our stroke program. And as a fellow, I just, took advantage of all this beautiful imaging and all the perfusion imaging, but I really didn't pay attention to the parameters and the technical side and the radiation safety side. So I thought this is a huge opportunity for us to teach fellows not only how to read the images, but to create these images and to understand and be able to communicate with the technologist. So I think that's another potential area that we can use that time. So the answer is right now we don't have block elective time, but there will be more time to do those things like spine procedures. If you wanted to come and spend more time on head and neck, you can absolutely do that. And you can do that right now on academic days if you wanted.
Thank you, Ashley. There's a question on, is there internal fellowship research grant?
We have departmental seed grants that you could do with, if you were doing a project with a faculty member. I don't know that in our fellowship that we have money for research, but we have money, of course, for our fellows to support the fellows in any travel. Does anybody else want to speak to that?
There's a department seed grant, which actually I worked with a resident on, and you can apply as co-investigators, and it'll give you some funds to do research. But a year is a very short time, so if you really want to do funded research, you really have to kind of reach out to us before you even come, and then that way we can design a project, and then look for these kind of funding opportunities.
Just to jump in, also for those who are interested in research, there is a possibility of doing a second year. So we discussed that when you're here, and we've had second year fellows, and some have been interested in doing research and have successfully applied for foundation grants and small grants with us. So that's always a possibility. But again, there is that seed grant, but I agree, you'd have to kind of know in advance that once you decide to come and we accept you and everything was going forward, you could reach out to us and we could look at planning a kind of grant.
There was a question about how many studies fellows read per day. I think, different faculty have already kind of answered that for the respective sites. Let me see, anything else? I think that's it. Are there any other questions?
I know that Frank Minja, if he's online still, he was going to speak to all of us about a unique opportunity that our fellows have in experiencing part of the Global Health Initiative at Emory.
Oh, thank you so much, Ashley, for the opportunity to share. My name is Frank Minja. I recently just joined Emory from Yale. I've only been here about 2 months, but I can tell you that the culture is amazing. The cases are awesome, so it's a really amazing case mix. But to speak specifically to the global health opportunity, I'm from Tanzania, and I've been helping to develop some training programs in Tanzania. And recently we got a really a big boost in RSNA. They're gonna give us a global learning center in Tanzania. And what that means is that there is a good chance that the fellows at Emory and faculty are gonna get exposed to case material from Tanzania. In terms of like helping train and doing like second opinions, and when we do have elective time, I can't promise it, maybe you'll be able to go to Tanzania on your vacation. So that's just to kind of give you a teaser, but it's just all along the lines of basically the same way we want to deliver excellent care here in Atlanta. We want to also be able to kind of bring that expertise elsewhere around the world. And we're super excited about that. And I couldn't really be proud to be part of this team that's really focused on your education. And so please reach out with any questions here, offline, or whatever. But we're glad that you're here, and we're glad that you're looking at our program. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Thank you, Frank. That sounds like a great learning experience for faculty and fellows alike. Any other questions? So if not, then what I think we're going to do, so I want to thank everyone for spending this time with us. I hope you got a sense for our Emory program, for the flavor of the fellowship, and our focus on education and some of our people. What I want to do is now give the fellows an opportunity just to answer any additional questions that the applicants may have. Sometimes it's helpful just to hear from the fellows. So what we can do now is, if the faculty will go ahead and leave the Zoom, then we'll leave these last 10 minutes for the fellows to stay on the Zoom and answer any questions from the applicants. So thank you everyone for your time this afternoon, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Looking forward to meeting you all in person.
Hello, everyone. Again, I just wanted to thank you one more time for joining us. And yeah, just please ask any questions, anything that you would like to learn more about. We have several our fellows here, so I'm sure that they also will be happy to join me and answer any questions that you might have. Just to start this conversation, I can tell you that, as Dr. Aiken briefly mentioned, I am in the middle of the weekend call right now. So I can tell you a little more about how that works, if that's something that you would like to learn more about, or anything else.
How do, hi, my name's Krang. How do checkouts work exactly with your staff?
Checkouts, what do you mean by that?
So, especially with COVID and everything right now, are you guys doing it right next to each other? Are you guys doing it, virtually, or?
Oh, got it. You mean like in terms of like reading out. So in the majority of cases, we use, I don't know if you use it, but we use here Microsoft Teams. It's something that we started using like when the COVID hit, and I think it was just like in the beginning, but it was just like perfect timing to start using it. So we use Microsoft Teams, and it has like this opportunity to share screen. And I would say that nowadays, for the majority of faculty, we do readouts using this software. And it's actually end up being really very helpful, especially on call. Like, for example, I was doing like all my readouts today using Microsoft Teams. And the big benefit is that because you are not like sitting next or like doing it just like typing on your laptop first, you can just edit it in real time. It definitely saves a lot of time, so it just helps you to move more quickly on call. So that's how we do for the majority of cases. In terms of being spread out, yes, we do definitely follow all the social distancing measures. So obviously everybody, as soon as you enter in the reading room, you will start cleaning your workstation. We have all those supplies, so everybody sterilizes as much as possible. And then all our workstations, they are like, they do have that whatever, how many like 6 feet you have difference distance. So in the majority of cases, we just do like this remote readout using Microsoft Teams, even if we're in the same reading room located. With a smaller percentage of faculty, sometimes they prefer to do it in person. In that case, we just, you keep the distance. You just don't get closer. You don't use their workstation. You don't touch their mouse. So you just kind of like follow the same things that I think that everybody's like now so aware of, that it's just has become automatic. Don't touch other people's stuff. So yes, it's definitely everything is working and in place.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So it seems like
I can chime in. You've said a lot, Anna. Thanks for all that. My name's Dan Hampton. I'm another one of the fellows. I just want to chime in and say that I think Emory's a great place. I'm really happy here with the fellowship. I came here as an intern in 2015 and stayed for radiology residency, and had an opportunity to interact with a lot of the neuroradiology fellows during that time, and they all recommended the fellowship. And so it was a pretty easy decision to stay on for the neuroradiology fellowship here. And I like it even so much I'm staying on as faculty afterward in the emergency and trauma division. But as far as the, let's see, the next question we have, asking about didactic, how is didactics spent? We have Thursday morning conferences. They usually start at 7 a.m. and last 2 hours, and that's dedicated time. So you don't go to the reading room. And traditionally we meet in a classroom in the School of Medicine, which is at the Emory University Hospital at the Clifton campus or the main campus. And we usually have breakfast there. We haven't had a chance to do that this year because of COVID. But hopefully by the time you guys come along, that will be reinstated and you'll get to meet in person and have those lectures. And they're also, right now we're having them on Zoom. The faculty, for the first couple months of fellowship, the faculty give case conferences and lectures about various topics. And then we transition to where there's 1 hour of faculty lecture and then 1 hour of either case conference from a fellow or a combined case conference with the neurosurgery residents. We have grand round lectures where we also present topics as well. Let's see. And any other fellows, feel free to chime in too. Let's see, do we present at conference? So the person presenting at conference is assigned based on a schedule for the whole year at the beginning. And there's, if one of those days, one of those Thursdays don't work for you, you can switch with other fellows. I've already switched a couple, and that's pretty easy to do. Let's see, neurology grand rounds. There are neurology grand rounds. We get invitations to those. They're on Zoom now, and they're optional. You don't have to go and watch, but if you have time and you're inclined to, you're definitely encouraged, and you know, they're happy for us to watch the neurology grand rounds as well. And I think we also have combined neuroradiology, neurology stroke conference, which hasn't happened yet, but I think it's on the schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just wanted to add regarding presentation at the multidisciplinary conference. So on top of things that we do on Thursdays, and each fellow for a year you're assigned to do 4 conferences. So one of them is case conference, another is M&M conference, third one is grand rounds. So you just basically choose a topic that you would like to discuss. And the last one is the presentation of your QA project. In terms of the multidisciplinary conferences presentation, we also assigned to some conferences where we present, such as neuro-ophthalmology conference. What else? Also, fellows, they participate in the multidisciplinary conference that happens at Head and Neck. They do it like every day, that happens in the afternoon. It's also not mandatory. It's at this point, it's just if you would like to participate, they also encourage it, just because I completely agree. I think that Chris just commented that it's a great opportunity to kind of like learn a little bit more of a clinician perspective in terms of what they're looking for. So, and it's also like a great practice of just presenting at that conference, is given that in 1 year you still will have to do that. Any other conferences that we also present that I'm forgetting about? No, Dan?
I think you've covered them.
Yeah.
We're also encouraged to go to national meetings. They give us funding for that. I think they give us funding to go to one, just that we choose and we decide to go to. And then if we do an educational exhibit or a poster or something like that, then they'll fund us up to $1,000, or I think maybe $1,200 for travel and expenses. And there's no limit to how many of those you can go to. So if you like making posters and educational exhibits or writing papers, then you can go to a lot of meetings.
Yeah, absolutely. And another good thing, I think, that this year, given that all conferences are virtual, and they still preserve the same like days that are protected from clinical service if you present in the conference, or if this is the conference that you're attending. However, even like for those conferences where you're not presenting now, given that they are virtual and you don't have to travel, but they actually reimburse you for the registration fee. So for example, there was like recently ASHNR conference, ASPNR conference is coming up. So basically the fellowship, they reimbursed as the cost of that registration fee for the conference. And now with all these virtual conferences, they have like their lectures recorded and you can watch them something like 3 months after the conference, anytime when you want. So eventually it's actually even, I think, open up more opportunities to attend those national meetings in virtual format. So it's really difficult to predict what will be happening next year with the conferences, but the thought is that they might actually consider keeping them as a hybrid model, with some attending in person and some still keeping virtual. So it's just like nice that they still cover the registration fee for you. So you basically can just get access to that as well anytime, which eventually I would say in terms of the educational resources between our lectures, and all these meetings that we have access to. In my experience, I honestly have definitely much more resources available to me that what I can truly sit and watch or listen or like participate. It's just literally every time, it's just like choice for me, which one to listen to, which one to attend.
I guess I'll add something about work-life balance. Anna is doing the toughest part of fellowship right now, being on a weekend of call. There's not too many of those, and they're pretty busy. The weeknight calls are not very bad in my experience. They're very manageable volume, and then you leave, and then you have the next day off. So really, it's almost like a net positive to have a weekday call. And the other things that I don't know if any of you are thinking about starting a family during fellowship, like I am. Today's my wife's due date. I'm going to get 3 weeks of paternity leave here shortly. So that's another thing to keep in mind. I think the institution is very supportive, trying to make sure people don't get burned out and are fresh at work, and it's a good environment.
I came in a little late. You may have already covered this. I'm Jeff. I'm from Minnesota. I would love to live somewhere a little warmer. It's pretty chilly here. We got like 6 inches of snow or something the other day. Anyway, I was wondering, what is your commute like? How much time do you spend commuting a week between all the sites of Emory?
I mean, it depends on where you live. I've noticed a huge drop in the commute since COVID started because there's not much traffic. So I live in a place called Decatur, about a mile or so, a mile and a half maybe from the main Clifton campus. So with no traffic, it's like 5 minutes there, 5 or 10 minutes. With traffic, it can be 15. And then it varies by site, 20 minutes or so to Midtown, 20 minutes to Grady, 10 or 15 to one other site, Executive Park, that I go to occasionally. So, this year the commute's been great. As a resident, it was, add 5-10 minutes to that. But again, it depends on where you live. If you live Midtown, you could probably walk to Emory Midtown Hospital if you want, depending on where you live. So, if you live, go ahead, Anna.
I just wanted to add, because in comparison to Dan, we're actually two nice comparisons, because Dan lives like 1 mile away from EUH Hospital and I live outside the perimeter. And I completely agree with Dan that now with the COVID, the traffic has been just like amazing. So literally amazing. There's like almost no traffic and you definitely can get pretty quickly to any place. In terms of commuting between the sites during the day, we usually don't do that unless you're on call and you happen to be at the other side and not the main campus. So that's pretty much probably the only time where you would travel during the day between the sites. Other than that, you just like go there. And even like for me, living outside the perimeter, it takes, I don't know, like 25 minutes to get to any hospital between like, that we work at, between like 20 and 25 minutes.
Maybe the traffic will stay like this if people work from home, or, I think a lot of people have realized that they can get away with that. And so,
yeah, that would be fantastic, because right now, this is definitely one of the best part of being in Atlanta. Is just, I don't know, our like major I-85 is just they breathe. just enjoying driving there.
Another question I had is, how well do you feel like your IT setup works for you? Do things get fixed quickly if they go awry? Do you feel like things are set up well from the get-go? Are templates set up, things like that?
I think the templates are pretty good. We're getting a new PACS soon, Sectra. I don't know if that's going to be in place by the time you guys get here. They put it in Grady recently in the last several months, and it's really nice. It's got a lot of features, and I think it's cloud-based, so it works well on campus and off campus at remote workstations. As far as like in general, Emory's IT, I think it's pretty good. They have a lot of different software options. They use like Microsoft Office 365 or Microsoft 365, so we get the whole Word and PowerPoint through that. You can use that in your web browser anywhere. And they have a ticketing system. The trick, if you have an IT problem at Emory, is there's an icon on the desktop. You just put in a ticket, and then I think the IT people, you know, they're kind of OCD about that, so they'll work on that until the ticket's gone. So that's the trick. If you ever have IT trouble, is to put in a ticket rather than try to call people or whatever. It gets taken care of.
Hey, this is Milan, one of the fellow. And one thing I kind of like here is like we have IWS workflow specialist always on there online with us. So if we have any technical difficulty that, you know, can be swallowed, like it would take more time than you expected, you can just have them, you know, work on them while you know, take care of other clinical duties.
I think this, we mentioned earlier, Microsoft Teams. I think that's been a pretty big help, because instead of in the past, if the technologist had a protocol question, they would call the reading room, and then you have multiple sites. So you're getting multiple calls about stuff like that all the time. But now they can just send you a message in Microsoft Teams, and then you can check it when you're free, and you don't really break your train of thought while you're reading a study. And so I think that's helped a lot. And as time goes on, more and more people are getting used to that. You know, it cuts down the phone calls, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely is getting more and more incorporated in the daily workflow, not only for physicians, but not only for us, but for technologists as well, for IWS, as Milan commented. So it just becomes really super convenient. And it's really nice when you just like getting that message and you can open it like not this exact second if you're super busy, and like 5 minutes later. Yeah, just it definitely helps with the tons of phone calls. Just that definitely can make your day a little bit chaotic. So that's also a nice thing.
I had another question. I know you guys have residents and med students rotating with you, but do you give any official didactics to any of those, to like residents or med students?
You can if you want to, because overall fellows are very involved in the teaching. Again, it just depends on like how interested you are in doing this. If you're not interested, and it's perfectly fine, because we have like a good percent of fellows who are only interested in clinical work, and that's completely understandable. At the same time, there's also a good number of fellows who are interested in academia and teaching, and you definitely have like ample opportunities to do that. Either you want to do it like daily teaching, because again, you always pretty much work with the fellows, with the residents. Well, I should say probably most of the time. And yes, fellows like overall in the department, they participate in didactic lectures. You just need to let people know that you're interested in giving that lecture. And then you can present during non-conference and give some lectures, do like board prep lectures. And also we have, for residents, we have like multiple things that have been done in terms of education, including dedicated lectures for example, R1 residents, where you kind of like teach them the basics and trying to help them to get ready for the call. So that's another thing where they also always welcome fellows participation. Yeah. So yeah, it just depends on how much you want to get involved.
Thanks. I guess for call, how many studies on average do y'all read?
Well, I can see how many I read thus far today. So overall, I would say that we could call, yes, it's as Dan said, this is the busiest time, obviously. At the same time, I think that with this system of having anti-rotation immediately before weekend call helps a lot, just because, for example, yesterday when I started my weekend call, I came in at 4. So pretty much you can like sleep in as much as you want. You can do whatever you want. So pretty much like almost like your whole day is up to you. Again, Friday night, so your weekend call is Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday night is pretty much like as any weekend night. So it's not super high volume, and they usually scan approximately till 10. It just depends when they will finish the last exam. So on average, probably like weeknight, I'm just trying to think, maybe like, what do you say then, like 20 studies?
Yeah, on an evening shift, maybe so, maybe 20. And you're not doing full reports on those either. You're just doing like a 1 or 2 sentence prelim, and so that's much less than dictating full reports on all those. Somebody comes back the next day and puts a full report on it.
Yeah. On Saturday, like obviously weekend days are busier because you're responsible for the entire like number of studies. So I think that thus far up to 4 p.m., my number was something like close to 50 studies today, like between CTs and MRs. So, well, and they probably still scanning while I'm enjoying my time here with you guys. So I anticipate that there will be probably a little bit more by the end of the day. So we can call probably like around,
It's tough.
what is it?
I said weekend call is tough, but you also get Monday off after it too. So it's you're not showing back up to work Monday. So you get
You kind of get
most of Friday and then all of Monday.
So eventually, I would say it feels like it's busy, it's hard, because again, for example, like this night, though you don't have to stay in house, I got home yesterday something like 11:30, and then you're still responsible for pager, because like if they have any questions or anything overnight, and like for example, ED, they did have questions like overnight, which I had to communicate with technologists. So eventually, even though I did not have to come in the hospital and deal with that, it still was like in the middle of the night that I spent probably an hour dealing with everything, and then you're going in the morning and reading. So it's busy, but at the same time, I think that having that Friday and Monday off, eventually it actually, I think it balances it out. Even just thinking in comparison to like resident weekend call where we did not have those days, I think that eventually, I honestly think that you feel a little bit less exhausted because of those 2 days, like on both end of the weekend call.
I guess I just thought of something that I think is one of the big advantages of this program is the faculty here are all very talented, very well connected, very experienced, and they're all looking out for you. They're all wanting to help you achieve your goals, whether that's continue in academics, which they would love, or go into private practice. And so this is one of the larger fellowship programs out there, and so we have alumni all over the place that our faculty keep in touch with, and so that they're here to help us, and they let us know that, and so that's I think a great strength for someone who's looking for a good fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I'm just reading the comment that Chris left in the chat, is that it's busy but manageable and helps develop efficiency skills. I completely agree with that. It's obviously when you're going through weekend call, you're sometimes like, oh my gosh, why they will stop scanning, like, and give me a short break. But I completely agree that this is how you eventually develop your efficiency in terms of scanning. And in terms of private practice, I've spoken to many Emory alumni, like in national conferences and everything. And I think that one thing that everybody just keeps saying, that when they went to either academia, but especially into private practice, I think that what everybody told me is that they never had, they never struggled like with the volume, that they could not keep up with the volume. They felt really comfortable, just because this is like one of those things that Emory is really good at, just like making you really good clinical radiologists, which I think is like the main purpose of the fellowship here, just to become good clinically.
I may have missed this earlier, but in terms of so are you getting staffed out for all or almost all of your studies? And do you feel like there's enough, like that the attendings have enough time and mental bandwidth to do that for you and do a good job?
Yes, absolutely. I think that from prior year's experience, I think how the system has been set up is that first half of the year is like full reading out with the attendings, like all studies that you have. And second half of the year, again, depending on your individual preferences, if you would like to continue those readouts for the entire duration of your fellowship, you're absolutely more than welcome to do that. But I know that in the past, fellows actually preferred in the second half of the year, do it a little bit kind of like more independent practice simulation, where they would just do dictation, send them to the faculty without reading out, and they will just provide them feedback in case if they missed something. Because and some people told me that they felt that that helped them to develop, kind of like build those independent reading skills by the end of the fellowship year. But as of now, right now, we are reading out every single study. And I would say that right now it's definitely, there is bandwidth and there is interest in faculty to sit down and talk with you about the study, to teach you, to pull up, I don't know, some articles. even on call right now when we were reading like those like 55 studies, we still were like, just while I don't know, like Dr. Aiken was looking at something, she was like, okay, let's just look it up and then let's just learn something about this. So it's definitely, there's definitely very big interest in making sure that you learn. And they all definitely academic radiologists, they enjoy teaching, and you can feel it every day. Yeah, so it seems like Chris agrees with me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. And same thing with procedures. Again, there is quite good number of procedures. As Dr. Weinberg said, something like as basic as LP in milligrams, it's definitely something that, I don't know how much you have done in residency. Here, our residency was developed the way that we did some, but it wasn't like huge numbers. So it wasn't like that I came to start my fellowship with something like 200 LPs under my belt. I probably have done something like, I don't know, 12, 15 during my entire residency. So it wasn't very proficient, but with the number of LPs that we do here and with the faculty dedication to teach you, I think it's just impossible to finish this fellowship and don't feel comfortable about at least like these two procedures. And another thing is that we definitely do more advanced procedures. I can't say that I'm very like that procedural guided person, but I definitely enjoy learning about like all these cool new things. And thus far I've done something like chordotomy, like CT guided chordotomy. Or we were just like recently doing like this, like again, CT guiding nerve blocks in the like cervical spine. Or like, I don't know, I've done like already like a couple of like cool biopsies in the cervical spine, just like trying to get there in between vertebral arteries and spinal cord. So it's definitely, and a thing that I really like about all those procedures is that for each one of them, faculty literally took their time, sat down from the beginning, or like even like draw on the paper on the like whiteboard, the anatomy, the approach, the like what are you exactly doing. And the same thing in the scanner, like when we were doing that. Yes, it took us probably much longer because of all those explanation and teaching in comparison to what it would take them just to do the procedure without me being involved there. But I think that it's just like demonstration of their dedication and just their like commitment to teach you and like share the knowledge.
Any other questions? Any thought?
You guys seem happy enough, so that's a good sign.
Yeah. Well, we wish you luck, and we hope you come to Emory. Again, we think it's great, and yeah, best of luck.
Yeah.
If you have any questions later, feel free to reach out to us. We're on the website, and you have the contact information for Dr. Aiken, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Also on Twitter, if you guys on Twitter, just yeah, definitely get in touch. And thank you for joining us today. Hope it was helpful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Have a good weekend,
everyone.
You too. Good luck with the rest of the call.
Oh, thanks.